Hey, it's your old pal Tom here on the Tom Gulley Show. Let me tell you about the amazing songwriter, composer, actor, legendary Hoagy Carmichael. You know, this is our cold open that we do for our audio podcast listeners to allow people to slowly file in to our live interactive YouTube chat room. And if you are watching on YouTube, I often wonder, do people think that I won't be appearing on camera a little later? Yeah, I will be. And we'll show you some photos and sometimes video and sometimes audio. It's a big production we got going on here. But we will tell you about Hoagy Carmichael, who wrote some of the greatest standards of all time, songs you've heard. It's almost staggering the amount of things this guy did and the amount of people who've covered his songs over the years. And as I mentioned, he was a songwriter, a composer, and an actor in movies and on television. And you don't see that quite as much anymore. I think Justin Timberlake made a run at it. But I also wonder, was it easier to do that back when? Is that something someone could conceivably do right now? I don't know that they could. And I don't know that we have those kinds of talent. Talent gets brought up differently now than it did back then. If you want to be an actor, you're either good looking and you get put in a show and you get famous for being on the show, and then you're either on TV all the time, or you graduate to the movies and you never do TV again, or you're a dramatic actor. You would never think to do television. But could you be a songwriter, much less a singer? I mean, you can just have a good voice and people can write songs for you. That happens all the time. But to write songs that have lasted, working on 100 years for Hoagy Carmichael, and are still classics, standards to this day. I'm just asking. I don't know. I don't have all the answers. I do have a few answers, though. And one of the answers I have is that while people file into our lovely interactive YouTube chat room, I generally play a couple of tunes that are written by a legendary songwriter and composer of our time, Mr. Leon Kennedy. All the songs are about me, so naturally I love them. And we got a crank on this show, too. My good friend, the Reverend Bob Levy's got a show on right at the end of this one. And I'm not just a guy with a show. I'm a guy who watches shows. And occasionally a guy who appears on shows that other people have. And yes, I have written songs. And yes, I have appeared on television and in the movies. And yes, I have recorded songs. And I'm not famous at all. First song I'm going to play is a new one. It doesn't even have my name in it. It's just about me. And then the second one's got my name in it like 1,000,000 times. So that's cool. But when I return, let me tell you about Hoagy Carmichael.
They said the night was crowded, too many voices in the room. Some burn bright for a moment, some fade out far too soon. I've watched the doors swing open, I felt them close just as fast. You learn to mind your footing on a floor made out of glass. I've been counted out, I've been counted wrong. I've heard the doubts get loud and strong when the lights go out and I play that song. I'm still on. I've had nights full of promise, I've had days that wouldn't end. Some chase the sound of thunder, some wait for trends to bend. I've seen the door swing wide open, I've seen them slam just as fast. You learn to move with some caution on a surface built to crash. Talk about the past, let them say it doesn't last. I don't need the wind forever, I just need to run one more mile, one more honest soul. I've been counted up, I've been counted wrong. I've heard the doubts get loud and strong. There's a room with a restless air, voices rising everywhere. Most fall wide or miss their mark till one cuts through and stops the spark. No long road, no winding tale, just the right thought set to sail. The room goes still for half a beat, then the band comes in complete.
That's the point, my pal, you saw it land.
Right in time with the swing of the band.
That's the point, my dear, you saw it too.
Tom Gulley, yeah, he's pointing at you.
That's the point, my pal, you saw it land.
Right in time with the swing of the band.
That's the point, my dear, you saw it too.
Tom Gulley, yeah, he's pointing at you. Some press hard just to be heard, dressing noise up into words. But Mr. Gulley lifts a hand and the room falls in with a band. No flourish, nothing grand, just a thought you understand. When the rhythm nods along, you know you've landed something strong. Swing of the band.
That's the point, my dear, you saw it too.
Tom Gulley, yeah, he's pointing at you.
That's the point, my pal, you saw it land.
Hey everybody, what's going on? What's hot? What's hip? What's happening? What's shaking? Let me tell you about Hoagy Carmichael, a legend like no other in terms of composing, songwriting, and I got to tell you, a fine actor as well. We'll get into all the things Mr. Hoagy Carmichael did. If you've never heard the name, remember it, pass it along to others. I'll give you a little sneak peek. You know Ray Charles? You know when Ray Charles sings, Georgia, Georgia? Hoagy Carmichael wrote that song, Georgia on My Mind, yeah. Many others as well. Hey, I'll give you another sneak peek. Hoagy Carmichael, at one time, you know how people say they don't make any money on royalties for their songs on YouTube or Spotify or whatever it is? Hoagy Carmichael, at one point in his life, was earning $300,000 a year just on royalties. That's how popular his songs were. And that's when $300,000 was $300,000. You know what I mean? Right. Hey, do me a favor right now if you could. Like, share, subscribe, retweet, notification bell, all of the absolutely free things that you can do to help our tiny, upstart, underdog, fledgling show battle the algorithm, the almighty, all-powerful, all-knowing, all-seeing algorithm. Plus, we do have the super chats, we do have the memberships, we have the gifted memberships, we have the PayPal in our YouTube description. You give the most, I get the most. Google doesn't get anything that way. And a lot of other really awesome links to fun things you're going to like there. You can go to the TomGulleyShow.com. We have some curated audio podcasts there, along with our merchandise store to get our show logo on shot glasses, mugs, hats, clocks, computer bags, left nostril nose inhaler, a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff. Let's go to our chat room very quickly. Ms. Ruby is here. She says, sing to me, Tom Gulley. Well, I just might. I did just a second ago. Georgia, Georgia. I'd try Stardust. I'd have to get the lyrics up. Oh, buttermilk sky, I'm looking at you. A lot of big ones. Guy won an Academy Award for songwriting. We'll get to it. We'll get to it. And then the lovely and talented Terry Nee is here. I will be playing the Terry Nee song at some point during this program. Yes, if you are a frequent denizen of our chat room on YouTube, you too might have Leon Kennedy write a song about you, even if only to make fun of you. Not saying that's what went on here, but that's what went on here. I'll tell you, there's another thing. Do you like James Bond? Hoagy Carmichael even has a very important tie-in with James Bond. What do you think about that? That's a lot of stuff, and I haven't even told you the stuff. But let me tell you about Hoagy Carmichael, shall I? Let's get down to it. Why beat around the bush anymore? Hoagland Howard Carmichael was born back there in 1899. And he was an American musician, composer, songwriter, actor, author, and get this, lawyer. Yeah. Carmichael was one of the most successful Tin Pan Alley songwriters of the 1930s and 1940s and was among the first singer-songwriters in the age of mass media to use technology. Old-time radio broadcasts, which he was on a ton of them, television, microphones, sound recordings of music for records. He composed several hundred songs, including 50 that achieved hit record status. He is best known for composing 4 of the most recorded American songs of all time. Stardust in 1927, And that's one that's been recorded. I'll get through all the people that have recorded that one. Georgia on My Mind, as I mentioned, Ray Charles, and the state song of Georgia, The Nearness of You, and Heart and Soul. Heart and Soul. You remember the movie Big, when Robert Loggia and Tom Hanks are dancing on the keyboard in the toy store? I think it's F.A.O. Schwartz, maybe. The song that they're playing while they're dancing on the keyboard, and a song that beginning pianists, I said pianists, learn to play when they begin, is Heart and Soul. He also collaborated with some of the biggest people of all time for some of his other huge hits, and we'll go over these again later, but Lazy Bones, Skylark, and of course, one of my favorites, Old Buttermilk Sky. And I listened to the Willie Nelson version of Old Buttermilk Sky before I did the show today. It was pretty awesome. It was pretty awesome. At any rate, Hoagy Carmichael was born in the home of the current reigning undefeated NCAA champion in Division I football, Indiana Hoosiers. That is, of course, Bloomington, Indiana. He was the first and only son of Howard Clyde and Lydia Mary Carmichael. His parents named him after a circus troupe called the Hoaglands that had stayed at the Carmichael house during his mother's pregnancy. His dad worked as a horse-drawn taxi driver and later as an electrician, while his mother, a versatile pianist, I said pianist, played musical accompaniment at local Nickelodeons and silent movie theaters and private parties to earn extra income. He did have two younger sisters, Georgia and Joanne. Because of his father's, well, let's just say, unstable job history, the family moved very frequently. He lived most of his early years in Bloomington, the county seat of Monroe County, Indiana. Also, little known fact, Bloomington, Indiana, in the mid-90s, was known as the afternoon drive time home of a little known and lightly regarded radio talk show host named Tom Gulley on AM 1370 WGCL AM right there in downtown Bloomington. Oh, yes. Bloomington was also a college town, as I mentioned, main campus of Indiana University, and very nearby, about 60 miles away from state capital of Indianapolis. In 1910, the Carmichaels moved far northwest to Missoula, Montana, when young Hoagy Carmichael was about 11 years old, but they ended up moving back to Bloomington, Indiana. This is the childhood home of Hoagy Carmichael. And with the exception of some piano lessons in nearby Indianapolis with actually a very famous band leader of the time named Reginald Duval. He was a band leader, an accordion player, known as the elder statesman of Indiana jazz and the Rhythm King. Carmichael had no other academic or professional musical training. The family moved back east to Indianapolis when Hoagy Carmichael was 17 in 1916, but Carmichael moved back to Bloomington 3 years later in 1919 when he was 20 to complete high school. For musical inspiration, he would listen to prominent ragtime music pianists. I said pianists. At 18, Carmichael helped supplement his family's meager income by doing manual jobs in building construction or at a bicycle chain factory and in a meat slaughterhouse. I guess that's the only real kind of slaughterhouse there. I mean, there's not a wood slaughter, you know what I mean? This bleak time was partially relieved by piano duets with his mother and by his long lifetime friendship with band leader Duval, who taught him piano jazz improvisation. Carmichael earned $5 playing at a college fraternity dance at nearby Indiana University in 1918, and that was the beginning of Carmichael's professional musical career. The death of his 3-year-old younger sister in 1918, possibly from the worldwide infamous Spanish flu pandemic, affected him deeply. He later wrote, "My sister Joanne was the victim of poverty. We couldn't afford a good doctor or good attention, and that's when I vowed I would never be broke again in my lifetime." But Carmichael was no dummy. He was no dummy. He attended Indiana University at Bloomington, where he earned a Bachelor of Arts degree in 1925 and subsequently a law degree in 1926. He was a member of Kappa Sigma fraternity and played the piano around Indiana and Ohio with his recently organized band, Carmichael's Collegians. Around 1922, and this is big, Carmichael first met the legendary, hold on here, there he is, Leon Bix Beiderbecke, a cornetist and a sometime pianist from Iowa. The two became friends and played music together. Around 1923, during a visit to Chicago, Beiderbecke introduced Hoagy Carmichael to fellow musician and trumpeter, you guys aren't going to believe this one, Louis Armstrong, with whom Carmichael would later collaborate while Armstrong was playing with the Chicago-based King Oliver Creole Jazz Band. Louis Armstrong would continue to influence Hoagy's compositions. Carmichael later reflected in a letter to his wife in the early 30s he was going to see Armstrong to learn about the, quote, purdy notes. Under Beiderbecke's influence, Carmichael began playing the cornet, but soon found his lips unsuited to the mouthpiece, and he stopped all that nonsense. He was also inspired by Beiderbecke's impressionistic and classical music ideas and influences from the master composers of previous centuries. Carmichael recorded his very first song called Freewheelin'. That's right, Freewheelin'. And it was written for Beiderbecke, whose band the Wolverines recorded it as Riverboat Shuffle in 1924 for Gannett Records in Richmond, Indiana. The song became a jazz staple. Lyrics were added later in 1939. Hoagy's other early musical compositions included Washboard Blues, which is still a popular song in the jazz world, and Boneyard Shuffle. The band's instrumental rendition of Washboard Blues was recorded May 19th, 1925, and it was the earliest recording in which Carmichael performed his own songs, including an improvised piano solo. Now, after graduating from Indiana University's law school in 1926, Hoagy Carmichael moved to Florida, where he worked as a legal clerk in a West Palm Beach legal firm, but he returned to Indiana in 1927 after failing the Florida bar exam. But just because you can't be a lawyer in Florida doesn't mean you aren't qualified in Indiana, if that tells you anything. He joined an Indianapolis law firm, Bingham, Mendenhall, and Bingham, passed the Indiana bar, but devoted most of his energies to music. Carmichael had discovered his method of songwriting, which he described later. He said, "You don't find melodies." Let me start over with my Hoagy Carmichael bad impression. "You don't write melodies, you find them. If you find the beginning of a good song, and if your fingers do not stray, the melody should come out of hiding in a short time." As I mentioned, Hoagy Carmichael, oh man, did he write some songs. He composed several hundred songs, and as I mentioned, 50 of them achieved hit record status during his long career. In his early days as a songwriter in Indiana, from 1924 to 1929, he wrote and performed in the hot jazz improvisational style, popular with jazz dance bands. While he was living in New York City from 1929 to 1936, he wrote songs that were intended to stand alone, independent of any other productions, such as a theater production or a motion picture. And his songs from this period continued to have jazz influences, and during his later years in California, from 1936 to 1981, his songs were predominantly instrumentals. Now, that doesn't mean there weren't lyrics, because he kind of partnered with the best lyricists of his time, and we'll discuss that in just a second. Nearly 4 dozen were expressly written for or were incorporated into motion pictures. And you may have seen Hoagy Carmichael in a movie and just not known it was Hoagy Carmichael. Hoagy made hundreds of recordings between 1925 and his passing in 1981. He also appeared on radio and television and in motion pictures and live performances where he demonstrated his versatility. Because Hoagy lacked the vocal strength to sing without amplification on stage, as well as the somewhat unusual tone of his voice, which he described as flat, say, through the nose, he took advantage of new electrical technologies, especially the microphone, sound amplification, and advances in recording. As a singer-pianist, he was adept at selling his songs to lyricists, music publishers, film producers, and promoting them to the public via microphones on stage and in the mass media. But the big thing that happened, was that in 1927, on Halloween, October 31st, Hoagy Carmichael recorded Stardust, one of his most famous songs, at the aforementioned Gannett Records studio in Richmond, Indiana, playing the piano solo himself. He recruited Frank Trumbauer and, of course, Bix Beiderbecke, along with the members of the Paul Whiteman Orchestra that included the Dorsey brothers, Jimmy Dorsey and Tommy Dorsey, to play at the late October recording session with him. New York's Mills Music published the song as an upbeat piano solo in January 1929. Mills Music, by the way, republished the song with the addition of Mitchell Paris's lyrics in May of 1929. Stardust attracted little attention in 1930 until Isham Jones and his orchestra recorded it as a sentimental ballad with a slower tempo, the retiming often credited to the band's arranger, a guy named Victor Young. I'm sorry, people are messaging me during the show. It's just put it in the chat, man. Put it in the chat. Don't message me during the show. The chef's here. He says this afternoon we have Mikey, Cooper, Neil, and myself. So, and also, I got a couple things here. We'll take a departure from Stardust, and I can get back to what I was doing. Chef sent me some pictures of some delicacies at the Skyline Club in Indianapolis. When in Indianapolis, go to the Skyline Club. Find someone who's a member, or become a member yourself. That's got to be a beef welly there and some taters. I don't know. But back to Stardust. Stardust with some of the greatest lyrics of all time. I had Pat Dixon try to do Stardust the other day, and it is not an easy song to sing. Let's see here. Sometimes I wonder why I spend the lonely nights dreaming of a song. The melody haunts my reverie, and I am once again with you. It is a tough song to sing. As you can hear, I can't sing it. I didn't plan it. Plus, I'm flustered. Put it in the chat. It became a hit song, the first of many for Carmichael. Its idiosyncratic melody in medium tempo, a song about a song, later became a standard of the Great American Songbook. And Stardust has been recorded by people like this guy, Frank Sinatra, and this guy, Willie Nelson, along with Artie Shaw, Nat King Cole, Ella Fitzgerald. You name them, and they have recorded Stardust. Yes. I got a couple more songs here that you're not going to believe of his. That you're like, one guy wrote all these? Yeah, one guy wrote them all. Carmichael received more recognition after Paul Whiteman and his orchestra recorded Washboard Blues on Victor Records in 1927 with Carmichael singing and playing the piano. Carmichael's March of the Hoodlum was also recorded with the band he'd hand-selected. And in 1929, after realizing that he preferred making music and had no aptitude for or interest in becoming a lawyer, he got fired from his job at the law firm. Carmichael moved to New York City, where he worked for a brokerage firm during the weekdays and spent his evenings composing music, including some songs for Hollywood musicals. That's where he met Duke Ellington's agent and sheet music publisher Irving Mills and hired him to set up recording dates. Carmichael's first major song with his own lyrics was Rockin' Chair, recorded by Louis Armstrong, and eventually with his own hand-picked studio band featuring, yes, Bix Beiderbecke, Bubber Miley, and Benny Goodman, Tommy Dorsey, Gene Krupa, Bud Freeman, Eddie Lang, and Joe Benuti on May 21st, 1930. So he was working with the biggies before they were biggies. After the October 1929 stock market crash, Carmichael's hard-earned savings declined substantially, but fortunately, Louis Armstrong had recorded Rockin' Chair, giving Carmichael a badly needed financial and career boost. The song Rockin' Chair became one of Carmichael's jazz standards. And then, oh boy, and then he recorded Georgia on My Mind. The song became another jazz staple as well as a pop standard, especially after World War II. And we mentioned Ray Charles is famous for singing it. Carmichael also arranged and recorded Up a Lazy River on the Wildwood Tree, Up a Lazy River, in 1930. Just a huge hit, still famous to this day, one after another. Although Hoagy and the band he assembled had first recorded Stardust as an instrumental, Bing Crosby recorded the tune with the new lyrics in 1931. And of course, Bing Crosby at that time was a huge star. Hoagy joined ASCAP in 1931, and in the following year, he began working as a songwriter for Ralph Peer's Southern Music Company, the first music firm to occupy the new Brill Building, which was a famous building in New York where songwriters hung out. The Great Depression rapidly put an end to the jazz scene of the Roaring Twenties. People were no longer attending clubs or buying music, forcing many musicians out of work. Carmichael was fortunate to retain his low-paying but stable job as a songwriter at Southern Music. But sadly, Bix Beiderbecke's early death in 1931 also darkened Hoagy's mood. of the time, he wrote later, I was tiring of jazz and I could see that other musicians were tiring as well. The boys were losing their enthusiasm for the hot stuff. No more hot licks, no more thrills. By the way, I should mention this. I don't think I've ever mentioned this publicly or even on this show. My Uncle Raymond, it's a long story about my family. My grandfather was actually born before Hoagy Carmichael in the late 1890s. And one of his oldest sons, Raymond, was an incredible musician and played with the Sons of the Pioneers as well as other people in movies and things. And he was a part of all of the stuff that was going on. Now, he was not what I would call a songwriter necessarily, but he could play any stringed instrument as well as anybody out there. And so he was frequently in demand for places in these live bands and movies and recordings and things of that nature. Carmichael's eulogy for hot jazz was premature. Big band swing was just around the corner, and jazz turned in a new direction with band leaders like Benny Goodman and the Dorseys, who, Hoagy had already worked with, and singers like Bing Crosby leading the way. And Hoagy Carmichael followed that trend. In 1933, he began a long-lasting collaboration with one of the most legendary, and I mean legendary, lyricists of all time, Johnny Mercer, who had just arrived in New York on Lazy Bones, which became a hit. Southern Music published the sheet music in 1933. More than 350,000 copies were sold in 3 months. Because back then, sheet music was big. A lot of people played instruments. Hoagy collaborated with Johnny Mercer on nearly 36 songs, including Thanksgiving, Moon Country, and the 1951 Academy Award winner for Best Song in the Cool, Cool, Cool of the Evening. He also started, I'll get to that in a second. Let's see if anything's happening in our chat room here. Terry Nee says he's blushing. Randy says, sorry late, Chef is in the house. Hello to all of those guys in the fabulous chat room and in the fabulous Skyline Lounge in Indianapolis. And who did we have working again? This afternoon we have Mikey, Cooper, Neil, and the chef himself. Hello, boys. Hope you're not in the weeds. Karma Todd is here. He says, hello, my friend. And Karma Todd, I am not recognizing your screen name. If it's been something else in the past, I apologize. But hello, my friend, back to you. Hoagy Carmichael also began to emerge as a solo singer-performer, first at parties and then professionally. He described his unique, laconic voice as sounding the way a shaggy dog looks. I have Wabash fog and sycamore twigs in my throat. And that is a reference to Indiana. The Indiana state song is actually called Along the Banks of the Wabash. It's a river. And the state tree is a sycamore tree. So he's basically saying I sound like a hillbilly from Indiana. A little bit. Although not that much. Not that much. Not that much. Oh, it's Christina Costello. Always good to see. Christina Costello in our YouTube chat room is an OG. She's an OG. She's back from the Facebook days and stuff. At any rate, some of his fans were disappointed as he sort of veered away from hot jazz, but Louis Armstrong's recording continued to jazz up Hoagy Carmichael's popular songs. In 1935, Carmichael left Southern Music Company and began composing songs for a division of Warner Brothers, which established a connection with Hollywood Moonburn, the first song Carmichael wrote for a motion picture, was sung by Bing Crosby in the Paramount Pictures movie called Anything Goes. And so obviously Bing Crosby was a big fan and a person that enjoyed singing Hoagy Carmichael's music. And that was good for Hoagy Carmichael, and it was good for Bing Crosby. Following his marriage to Ruth Minardi, daughter of a Presbyterian minister, in 1936, the couple actually just said, let's just move to California, where Hoagy hoped to find more work in the film industry. In 1937, the year before the birth of the couple's first song, Hoagland Jr., who they called Hoagy Bix, as sort of a tribute to Bix Beiderbecke. Hoagy accepted a contract with Paramount Pictures for, and this was big in 1936, 1937, during the Depression, $1,000 a week. Joining other songwriters working for the Hollywood studios, including famous songwriters whose names I would say, but I don't know who they are. You probably won't either. And this is when Hoagy Carmichael found work as a character actor in Hollywood. And his first appearance in a movie was a big hit movie. And not always, but frequently he played a piano player or musician. But his first movie was Topper, which was a smash hit movie about two ghosts that are high society. They get killed in a skiing accident. It's a comedy, actually, with Cary Grant and Constance Bennett. Hoagy portrayed a piano player in this one, too, and performed his song Old Man Moon in the film. And just on the success of that, he got other character roles in the 1940s and in some big hit movies. And he didn't just write songs for the movies at this point. He wrote Chimes of Indiana, which he gave to Indiana University. In 1938, he collaborated with famous Paramount lyricist Frank Lesser on Heart and Soul, na, 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 na. Two Sleepy People, and Small Fry. Heart and Soul was included in Paramount's motion picture A Song is Born, performed by Larry Clifton and his orchestra. Dick Powell, big singer, big actor at the time. Here he is with June Allison. Dick Powell premiered Hoagy's I Get Along Without You Very Well, Except Sometimes, in a national radio broadcast in 1938. Little Old Lady, included in The Show Is On, was Carmichael's first song to appear in a Broadway musical and became a hit. But Carmichael's score for the Broadway production Walk with Music, which he did with Johnny Mercer, wasn't very successful. And it didn't produce any hit songs. And Hoagy Carmichael never attempted another musical and resumed his career as a singer, songwriter, and a character actor in Hollywood. Well, in the 1940s, the growing Carmichael family, which was Hoagy and Ruth and their sons Hoagy Bix and Randy Bob, moved into the former mansion. This is how rich this guy was and how much money he was making. Moved into the former mansion of chewing gum heir William P. Wrigley in Los Angeles in 1942, when the United States entered World War II after the attack on Pearl Harbor. His contribution to the war effort was similar to other patriotic efforts by Irving Berlin and Johnny Mercer and Frank Lesser. His wartime songs included My Christmas Song for You, Don't Forget to Say No, Baby, Billy a Dick, that's the name of the song, The Army of Hippocrates, Cranky Old Yank, Eager Beaver, No More Toujours l'Amour, Morning Glory, and the never completed Hitler Blues. Throughout the 1940s, Carmichael maintained a strong personal and professional relationship with Johnny Mercer. And in 1941, their continuing collaboration led to Skylark, considered one of Carmichael's greatest songs. Bing Crosby recorded it almost immediately in January of 1942. And since then, many others have recorded it, including Glenn Miller, Dinah Shore, Harry James, Aretha Franklin, and Bette Midler. His 1942 song, I'm a Cranky Old Yank, was listed in the 1967 edition of the Guinness Book of World Records under the title, I'm a cranky old Yank in a clanky old tank on the streets of Yokohama with my Honolulu mama doing those Beto flat on my Cedo Hirohito blues, as the longest song title ever. Now let's talk movies, shall we? Hoagy Carmichael appeared as an actor in 14 motion pictures, performing at least one of his songs in every single one of them. He described his on-screen persona as the hound dog-faced old musical philosopher noodling on the honky-tonk piano, saying to a tart with a heart of gold, he'll be back, honey, he's all man. In 1944, Carmichael played a character named Cricket in a little movie opposite Humphrey Bogart and Lauren Bacall called To Have and Have Not. You know how to whistle, don't you, Steve? You just put your lips together and blow. He sang Hong Kong blues and the rumba jumps and played piano as Lauren Bacall sang How Little We Know. In the multi-academy, he's right off the bat, he's in these giant giant movies. And no, he's not the lead actor, but he's like the second or third male lead. He's got a very prominent role in these movies. In the multi-Academy Award winning film, The Best Years of Our Lives, with Dana Andrews, Myrna Loy, Frederick Marsh, Hoagy's character teaches a disabled veteran with metal prosthesis to play chopsticks, and he also performs Up a Lazy River Where the Wild Wind Blows. Yeah. He did those things. He did. He played High Lynette in Canyon Passage, a Universal Pictures Western that starred Dana Andrews, Susan Hayward, and Brian Donlevy, big stars. He also composed several songs for the film, including Oh Buttermilk Sky, I'm a-looking at you, an Academy Award nominee. Yes. It's a big movie star, was Hoagy Carmichael. His career as a recording artist peaked in the mid-40s when he recorded exclusively for Decca Records, acted and performed in motion pictures, hosted variety shows on the radio as well. He also sang in live shows across the United States and debuted in the United Kingdom at the London Casino in 1948. According to his son Randy, Hoagy was an incessant composer, working on a song for days or even weeks until it was perfect. His perfectionism extended to his clothes, grooming, and eating. The man was a perfectionist. Let me get that 1953 picture back. Look at that. Look at those clothes. If I could get that outfit right now, I'd wear it every day for a week. I'm telling you. Once the work was done, however, he's such an Indiana boy. Once the work was done, however, Carmichael would cut loose. Hoagy would relax, play golf, drink, and indulge in the Hollywood high life. He also found time to write his first autobiography, The Stardust Road, published in 1946. Between 1944 and 1948, Hoagy Carmichael became a very, 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 very well-known personality and hosted 3 musical variety programs. In 1944 and 1945, the 30-minute Tonight at Hoagy's aired at 9:30 Pacific Time on Mutual Radio Sunday nights, sponsored by Safeway Supermarkets. The show featured Hoagy as host and vocalist, and musicians included some of the most famous jazz musicians of the time. Fans were rather blunt about Carmichael's singing, providing comments such as, "You can't sing for your soul," and "Your singing is so delightfully awful that it is really funny." Now, during the 1950s, the public's musical preferences shifted toward rhythm and blues and rock and roll, ending the career of most older artists. And although Hoagy's songwriting slowed down, he continued to perform. In the early 1950s, variety shows were super popular on television. Very popular. And Hoagy's most notable appearance was as the host of Saturday Night Review, a summer replacement series for your show of shows. He was also, oh, I love this. Here he is with George Gobel on Saturday Night Review. But this is one of my favorite things about Hoagy Carmichael. He was a regular cast member, and I couldn't find a great picture of this, but I did my best, of the first season of NBC's Western TV series Laramie, playing the character of Jonesy the ranch hand. And he was really good at it. There's actually an episode where he leaves the ranch. He gets mad and leaves the ranch and goes up to a mining camp and plays in a tent that they used for a bar, and was so popular they wouldn't let him leave. They just wouldn't let him leave. So he got to play the piano again there. As his songwriting career started to fade, his marriage dissolved also, and he and his wife Ruth divorced in 1955. During the 1940s and 50s, he also wrote more than a dozen songs for children, including the whale song, Merry-Go-Round, and Rocket Ship. Now, as I mentioned, Ray Charles made, Georgia on My Mind famous when it was released in 1960, and it was a major hit. Ray Charles, in fact, received Grammys for both Best Male Vocal and Best Popular Single that year from Georgia on My Mind. Hoagy Carmichael was also featured in an episode of The Flintstones titled The Hit Songwriters. Jerry Lee Lewis recorded Hong Kong Blues during his final Sun sessions in 1963. And in 1964, while the Beatles were exploding on the scene, Hoagy lamented, "I'll bet you I have 25 songs lying in my trunk. And no one was calling to say, have you got a real good song for such and such an artist?" Well, Beatles guitarist George Harrison released covers of Hoagy's songs Baltimore Oriole and Hong Kong Blues in early 1981. And as I mentioned, I'll mention it again, royalties on his standards, the biggies, were earning him over $300,000 a year. His second memoir, Sometimes I Wonder, the story of Hoagy Carmichael, was published in 1965. And by 1967, he was spending time in New York, but his new songs were unsuccessful and his musical career came to a close. He took up other interests in retirement, including golf, coin collecting, and enjoying his 2 homes, one on Sunset Boulevard in Los Angeles and the other in Rancho Mirage, California. As his 70th birthday came and went, Carmichael's star continued to wane, and he was nearly forgotten in a world dominated by rock music. With the help and encouragement of his son, Hoagy Bix Carmichael, Carmichael participated in the PBS television show Hoagy Carmichael's Music Shop, which featured jazz rock version of his hits. He appeared, oh yes, he appeared on Mr. Rogers' PBS show called Old Friends, New Friends in 1978. And with more time on his hands, Carmichael started painting, and after a long courtship, married an actress, Wanda McKay, in 1977. He received several honors from the music industry in his later years. He was inducted into the USA Songwriters Hall of Fame in 1971, along with his good friend, Duke Ellington. In 1972, Indiana University awarded Carmichael an honorary doctorate in music, and there's a statue of Hoagy on the campus. In June 1979, the Newport Jazz Festival honored Carmichael's 80th birthday with a concert titled A Stardust Road, the Hoagy Carmichael Jubilee in Carnegie Hall. The tribute concert was hosted by former bandleader Bing Crosby and included performances by many major musical performers like Kay Starr, Jackie Kane, Billy Butterfield. The list is endless. National Public Radio broadcast the concert later that summer. Piano Pedal Rag, a new Carmichael tune, was performed during the concert. Carmichael told host Crosby that he wrote it because he admired Biederbeck's writing so much that I didn't want to stop till I wrote something that was a little bit like something Bix would have liked. On his 80th birthday, Carmichael was reflective, observing, "I'm a bit disappointed in myself. I know I could have accomplished a hell of a lot more. I could write anything anytime I wanted, but I let other things get in the way. I've been floating around in the breeze." He spent his final years at Rancho Mirage, where he continued to play golf and remained an avid coin collector. Shortly before his death in 1981, he appeared on a United Kingdom recorded tribute album called In Hoagland. He sang and played rocking chair on the piano. His last public appearance occurred in early 1981 when he filmed Country Comes Home with country music performer Crystal Gale on CBS. Yes. Let's see what's going on in the chat room real quick. Christina Costello says, definitely a spiffy outfit. I dig the hat. She also says, I probably saw him on Mr. Rogers, not even realizing I was watching a great legend that day. I must find that episode. He was also in another movie, let me get it here, called Young Man with a Horn with Kirk Douglas. It's a great movie if you ever see it. And he plays, what's the name? I think the name of his character is Smoke Willoughby. And his characters always had like real anachronistic nicknames like that. He and lyricist Johnny Mercer received that Academy Award for Best Music Song in the Cool, Cool, Cool of the Evening, which was featured in the film Here Comes the Groom in 1951. Old Buttermilk Sky received a nomination for Best Song in 1946, but was not the winner. Carmichael's recording of Stardust in 1927 that has him playing the piano solo was inducted into the Grammy Hall of Fame and was also selected for inclusion in the National Recording Registry at the Library of Congress. He was inducted into the Hollywood Walk of Fame in 1960 You can see that star at 1720 Vine Street in Hollywood. In 1971, he was inducted into the Songwriters Hall of Fame as one of its initial 10 inductees. There you go. He's memorialized on an Indiana State historical marker installed in 2007 in front of the former Book Nook, one of Carmichael's favorite local hangouts on South Indiana Avenue, near the corner of Kirkwood and Indiana Streets in Bloomington, not too far from the studios of AM 1370 WGCL, where somebody used to host a program from 3 to 6 o'clock every single Monday through Friday called the Afternoon Edition. That was me. I did that. In 2008, the bronze, Hoagy Carmichael landmark sculpture by artist Michael McCauley was installed at the northeast corner of the IU Auditorium. I mentioned Georgia on My Mind is the state of Georgia's official song, and I do remember that he appeared as a Stone Age version of himself in the Flintstones, in which he sings the Yabba Dabba Doo song, written by Barney Rubble, based on an idea from Fred Flintstone. Fred, Barney, Wilma, and Betty also contribute to the lyrics. Now here's a big one. Here is a big one. You guys aren't going to believe this, but it's true. In Ian Fleming's first James Bond novel, I'm showing you the cover of the first edition printing, Casino Royale, the first James Bond novel. Both Bond's fellow secret agent Rene Mathis and his love interest, Vesper Lynd, remark that Bond looks like Hoagy Carmichael. Yes, Ian Fleming intended James Bond to look like Hoagy Carmichael. Can you believe it? Later in the novel, after looking at his reflection in the mirror, Bond disagrees, but it doesn't matter because Ian Fleming repeated the comparison to Hoagy Carmichael in his third James Bond novel, Moonraker. So what do you think about that? Ian Fleming intended him to look like not Sean Connery, not, Roger Moore, none of those guys. They wanted him to look like Hoagy Carmichael. Can you dig it? So there you go. A couple of the other movies he was in, one of them was Johnny Angel. I can't even tell you how big a deal it was that he was in To Have and Have Not, which was Lauren Bacall's coming out party. And of course, Bacall and Bogart were the rage of Hollywood. Bogart much older than Lauren Bacall. It was quite the scandal. But also, The Best Years of Our Lives won so many Academy Awards. It's not even funny. And Johnny Angel, in To Have and Have Not, he played Cricket. Not the game, that was his character's name. Johnny Angel, he played Celestial O'Brien. In The Best Years of Our Lives, his name was Uncle Butch Engel. In Night Song, he was Chick Morgan. In Johnny Holiday, he just played himself. But in Young Man with the Horn, he played Smoke Willoughby. In The Las Vegas Story, which is actually another pretty big movie, he played a character called Happy. In Timberjack, he played a character named Jingles. He just had a lot of quirky little nicknames. Let's go through those hit songs again, shall we? Stardust, Washboard Blues, Rockin' Chair, Georgia on My Mind, Up a Lazy River on a Wild, Lazy Bones, Moonburn, Old Man Moon, The Nearness of You, Heart and Soul, Small Fry, I Get Along Without You Very Well, Except Sometimes, Hong Kong Blues, Can't Get Indiana Off My Mind, Skylark, Baltimore Oriole, The Lamplighter's Serenade. These are all huge hits. Doctor, Lawyer, Indian Chief, Old Buttermilk Sky, In the Cool, Cool, Cool of the Evening. Man, oh man. And that is really all I got to tell you about the legend of the multi-talented Mr. Hoagy Carmichael. Let's get to the chat room and see what the chat room have to say. Before I forget, tomorrow at this time, we will go over the radio show and the TV show, Gunsmoke. So good on the radio. But the big news is Monday night, I will have an in-studio kind of, but not really in the show guest, Mr. Hal Eisner, legendary Los Angeles news anchor and journalist. And he will be with us live. Hal Eisner. The guy is absolutely legendary, and anything that happened in Los Angeles over the last 50 years, he covered it. And I'm sure he'll share some stories with us. So please be here from that. Also, big week of shows coming up. We're not messing around here. Monday night, Hal Eisner. And his new book, My Accidental 58-Year Journey in Television, or something like that. We'll talk about his new book too. Tuesday, we will cover the Apollo 1 disaster, which took the lives of 3 of our early astronauts. Wednesday, we'll be covering a Mr. Frank Sinatra. That's going to be a long show. Buckle in for that one. Thursday, we will discover the mystery of who killed Jennifer Servo, an unsolved murder. Then Saturday of next week, a week from today, we will cover the Hays Code. Before movie ratings, there was something called the Hays Code, which was very restrictive, and it said what could and could not be done in movies, and it actually caused the movie industry to do stuff that kind of was shorthand for doing dirty things, because they wouldn't show them, let them do dirty things and stuff. And then on Sunday, we will cover the legendary television musical program, Hullabaloo. Hullabaloo. So we'll cover it all. What's going on in the chat room? Christina Costello. Everybody say hi to Christina Costello, who you know better in the chat as Karma Todd. She's an OG. I mean, she's the oldest OG that we've had in here. A long, long time. Guido Samurai is here. Christina says, I'm now very curious about the I get along without you very well, except sometimes I'll be looking it up. All of his songs you can find when you look them up. And you're going to find several different versions. Not just one person will have recorded one. If you're going to listen to Stardust, I recommend that you listen to the Nat King Cole version. That's my favorite version, but listen to whatever you want. I do like the Buttermilk Sky version by Willie Nelson. Mrs. Ruby says, I never heard of Hoagy Carmichael. Thanks for enlightening me. Well, The Best Years of Our Lives is an Academy Award-winning Best Picture, and I think a couple Best Actors, Actresses, and stuff like that. So it's right post-war. It's very post-war. It's a really good movie. Really good. And then To Have and Have Not is a little bit like Casablanca. It's got some war type stuff going on, but it's also got a love story in it. Very huge Hollywood hit. And he's in both of them. And Young Man with a Horn, he might have a bigger role in that one than the other two with Kirk Douglas. An excellent movie as well. Frank. Yes, we're covering Frank. The Guido Samurai says, Tuesday is going to be lit. You mean when we cover the Apollo 1? Does that? Oh, Guido, I see what you did there. Karma says, Christina Costello says, noted, your opinion counts for a lot. Well, occasionally. Hey, I know what it's time for now. I bet he's not even here anymore. And that's the Terry Nee song. Terry, if you're not here, I'm not playing it. So, signal that you're here. Because I'm late for watching the Bob Levy show. Anyway, big stuff coming up on this show. Please do me a favor, like, share, subscribe, retweet, notification bell. These things are all free. And they only cost you a click. And then audio podcast people, you can like and follow and stuff audio podcast wise too. We'd love that. That would help us out. A little something for the effort. Of course, we did not reach our goal today of any amount of money unless somebody PayPal'd us. And a big shout out to the guys at the Skyline Club, as always. I love those guys to death. And with all that being said, I think the only thing left to say is that old clock on the wall says it's time for me to amscray. We will be here tomorrow, 3 o'clock Eastern, with Gunsmoke. It's going to be a long show because we're going to cover the radio. And I've got countless episodes of Gunsmoke on the radio that we may listen to little excerpts of. And then, or we may cover the TV, and then come back to the radio at the end. It's going to be about Gunsmoke. Anyway, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. I recommend going to Levyverse. There's supposedly a show going on right now, even, I think. And that's where I'm going. And with all that being said, I think the only thing left to say is I got a super awesome song by Leon Kennedy about me, although it doesn't have my name in it. Most of them have my name in it. This one doesn't. And I'm playing it because it's the most Hoagy Carmichael-ish thing that I got in our show library. And with all that being said, I think the only thing left to say is, till next time, got to tell you about a fellow Indiana boy. Very proud of him, Hoagy Carmichael. Till next time, we'll see you next time.
They said the night was crowded, too many voices in the room. Some burn bright for a moment, some fade out far too soon. I've watched the doors swing open, I felt them close just as fast. You learn to mind your footing on a floor made out of glass. I've been counted out, I've been counted wrong. I've heard the doubts get loud and strong. When the lights go out and I play that song, I'm still on. I've had nights full of promise, I've had days that wouldn't end. Some chase the sound of thunder, some wait for trends to bend. I've seen the door swing wide open, I've seen them slam just as fast. You learn to move with some caution on a surface built to crash. talk about the past. Let them say it doesn't last. I don't need the wind forever. I just need to run one more mile, one more honest song. I've been counting up, I've been counting wrong. I've heard the doubts get loud and strong. When the lights go out and I play that song, I'm still on. Yeah, I'm still on. I'm not going anywhere.